What is up, everybody? In this video, I'm going to talk about some of these cheap, light, and small modern camera lenses, what I really like about them, when I use them, and when I wouldn't use them. There's a couple of manufacturing things that have really made these possible to achieve the quality at this price point and weight and size. And it's basically that they're able to use injection resin molding, I think they call the elements PMOs, to make really unique shapes that can be really small and light. Traditional high-end lenses are made by grinding down Florentine, if you're looking at like a Canon L lens or something like that, which makes them heavy, big, and expensive. Obviously, there are huge benefits to doing that, physics and quality and all that kind of stuff. But these new manufacturing processes have made it so that they could really make lenses like this and that they are pretty decent. Gordon Lang, if you've ever seen his channel, I'll link it below, does a really interesting video where they do a full teardown with Canon of the 28 2.8. And they're even showing how, the elements don't even have to be round in the back. They can make a rectangle like your sensor, and that makes it so they could fit all the electronics then around here, another way to keep the size and weight down. The thing that I love about them is that obviously that portability, everything, the three things I said about them, they're cheap, light, and small. But so when you pair it with a camera like the Canon R8 or something like that, and even the R5, which I'm shooting on, which seems small when I first got it, but now full frame camera, full feature like this at this size, it's just so easy if you're going to do a one lens day to, just bring one camera with you like this and have it everywhere you go. The 28 2.8 has really become my go-to. We're looking at a $300 lens here, and it's just great because I do a lot of bike riding and stuff like that. So if I'm riding next to people, I could shoot them, groups. 28 is a pretty cool focal length. It works really well for me. A lot of times what I do is I bring the 28 and then I will either bring the 50 1.8, which is a $150 lens, and well, this is the 16, this is the 50. It doesn't matter. I think they're actually the exact same build. There's not really anything different in there. And they would really look like the exact same build if I held the right lens. That's the old EF model. These are the RFs. Almost identical on the outside, probably use the same outside case or whatever you do want to call that. But anyways, side note, the 50 is great. I've been doing a lot of bike portraits lately when I ride with my friends, actually stopping and posing. And to get that 1.8 and the 50, just that shallower depth of field, that more separation, I really, really like. So that's a good reason to bring this lens. The other one that I have in my collection, outside of the EF stuff, the RF stuff that doesn't need to be adapted to my two Canon cameras, is the 16. I find that I bought this and I used it a little bit, but it's just so wide for stills that I wasn't using it as often. But now that I'm doing more vlog stuff with the nicer cameras, what I really like about the 16 is that, 16, I could hold it out. But when I'm using the R8, this does not have in-body image stabilization, so I turn on the enhanced electronic stabilization, which crops in on the sensor on the field of view. So the 16 is really good because then I don't know what it's becoming, but it's got to be something more like a 20. And so I still have enough room to hold the camera and shoot with this. So that's kind of the three that I've been using a lot. The other thing which I'll get into is using adapters to use old lenses on these cameras. But yeah, again, it's just that portability and cost, and the fact that Canon and other lens manufacturers are able to use modern methods to get such good quality out of them. One thing that, when I'm reading about stuff and you'll look at the charts and they'll talk about like corner sharpness and the things like color fringing and chromatic aberration and loca, which are going to be more prevalent in less expensive lenses, I just find that it doesn't matter that much usually with what I'm trying to shoot when I'm carrying lenses like this. These are not lenses that I use in the studio when I'm trying to do my high-end commercial photography work. These are things when I'm out and about and I'm just trying to capture the essence of what's going on. Like I said, portrait some of my friends on a bike where there's going to be kind of a busy background that I'm trying to throw out of focus anyways, or being in a room with people drinking beers and, just what I'm carrying with me when I'm going to a party or a concert. I don't find that like those kind of flaws really present themselves as much as you would think. The other thing is I kind of go against the grain of like a very common wisdom that's been out since digital cameras really have been improving. So when you look at cameras getting like I'm filming on a 45 megapixel camera. So the common wisdom for a long time was when you're doing that, you have these 45 megapixels in this high resolution. So you need these really good lenses that, the sensor isn't going to show all these flaws of old school lenses that didn't have the optical quality. Yes, if you're doing like a landscape exhibition and you are making these massive prints that people are going to be close to and they're going to be inspecting every element of it, I do understand it in that way. But there's a reverse to that, which is when you're using something that's less expensive on a high megapixel camera like this, and you're not going to be presenting your stuff that way. Let's say what you're doing, what most of us are doing, is posting them to Instagram. But I'm still editing on high quality monitors and, you know, posting them to vlogs and putting them in videos like this. You're still shrinking down that image a lot by the time someone is finally viewing it. So when you talk about little things like color fringing or the corners not being sharp, you are like, it's just not going to be very obvious by the time you shrink everything down. The same has been proven with noise. For, you know, forever the common wisdom was, you know, high megapixel sensors are noisier. But that's when you zoom in at 100%, and so you're not really comparing apples to apples. If you take a high megapixel sensor and a lower one and you make a print of the same size, say 11 by 14, which is pretty standard, you've now shrunk down that image, and so the noise in the high megapixel sensor is smaller, so actually less prevalent to the human eye. So I think that's the same kind of thing when you look at color fringing or any of these other flaws. One, like I'm saying, I don't think they matter for the way I'm going to shoot with a lens like this, but two, they're also minimized because what the final output of the image is. So for me, these are worth it in that way. One thing when I am talking about cheap lenses though that I will use, I'm talking about prime lenses. One focal length, you know, like I said, 16, 28, 50. There are others out there by all kinds of other manufacturers. These are the three main ones available for Canon right now. But I have never found that the cheaper zoom lenses are any good. You're asking the lens to do too much, in my opinion. I find this a lot of, you know, zoom lenses if they aren't like the top tier lenses anyways, because even the mid-range ones when I had for EF cameras back in the day, I thought they were almost bad at everything. Instead, you know, they just weren't worth it. So like, you know, if you were at the lower end, like 24, you know, millimeters, then you get all this barrel distortion. And when you're at the high end, you know, they just never really looked that good to me, and they aren't worth it. Then you get the very slow apertures, where when you buy inexpensive primes, you know, still 1.8, still a 2.8, not the fastest lenses out there, but pretty fast, and especially for this ridiculous size. So there is a look, you know, you buy a 50 millimeter 1.2, it's going to have that where everything is awesome and the way it falls out of focus and the bokeh and all that stuff is going to be beautiful. There's a reason and there's a time and a place, but they're just not always necessary, and it depends on what you're doing. And that's also why I think in general, like stuff like film photography has become so popular, or even that new Fuji, how the V was super popular and everyone's already talking about the 6, because, you know, you're talking about something that's pocketable and you just want to be able to shoot and be out there and just doing it and not worry so much. And I don't know if I showed this, but this is my favorite film camera. It's a Minolta XT11. I know there's smaller cameras out there. I have some, but I mean, it's actually a bigger camera than my R8. So just this package just means the camera's always with me and I'm shooting in quality and not just using this guy, which is nothing wrong with this either, but this is, you know, being able to take these files, Wi-Fi them to my phone, edit them real quick in Lightroom sometimes and post them and have something that looks this cool with, you know, this kind of vibe is just something I really, really enjoy, and I much prefer. Yeah, just being able to go out and make cool images in unique ways. One thing, as I've showed, this is an adapter, so I can use my big collection of Rokkor Minolta lenses on the RF bodies, and you know, this is nothing but a, you know, just to get the sizing right and the spacing right to the sensor versus where it would have been with the film plane. And this is another fun way to get to try a lot of cheap lenses, because there's just so many old, you know, they make these for so many different systems to make two things compatible. Another way to go out and experiment. And when I've shot with this, I've really enjoyed the look, because some of these lenses just have a special, unique characteristic. And when I'm out just doing like hobby stuff, hiking, riding my bike, perfect quality is not what I'm looking for. It's, like I said, with film photography, it's that vibe, it's that feeling that you're going for. It's trying to do something creative or maybe something a little unique. It's obvious, it's the reason a lot of times when I travel, I bring film cameras. It's because, you know, when I'm in New York City or when I went to France, I'm not going to shoot a better digital image of something in Paris than the people who have spent their lives, you know, studying Paris or who live there every day. But I feel like something that could add some uniqueness to it is a different camera and a different film stock. And like I said, I just think that's the reason all that stuff is so popular. It's also the reason that, you know, just having a camera on you instead is more important than worrying about everything being perfect. You know, what we're looking at here is the 16 is $300, the 50 is $150 lens, 28 is $300. To get a quality zoom, you know, you're over $2,000. To get the really high-end primes, you know, you're anywhere, you know, above $1,000 and stuff like that. So I do think it's worth it to have a kit set up like this. Again, if I'm working in the studio, the stuff is going to be looked at by my high-end clients. It's a different proposition, but I like keeping up on doing hobby work. I really lean back into that. Again, since having this R8, I am working on a video specifically about the R8 and what it's like to use as a professional. That's the reason I bought it, is kind of a backup camera to my R5. And then also working with Dave lately, when I have a shoot or I go on vacation, he could take the R5 and I could take the R8, or vice versa, depending on which makes sense. There are definitely limitations to a camera like this, even though it is so full featured. And I want to get into a video about that, so get subscribed if you're interested in it. Give this video a like, and let me know if you think it's worth investing in these more inexpensive lenses for what you do. I guess that's the end.